You ever get that deep down feeling right in your gut that someone's small-minded campaign of harassment is about to rebound on them in the most financially painful way imaginable? I won't claim any official titles, but I'm fairly certain I'd place high in the competition for most mailboxes systematically obliterated on one rural property before deciding that enough was truly magnificently enough. So go ahead, get comfortable, maybe pour yourself a drink. This one's a ride. And while you're settling in, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always enjoy seeing how far these stories reach, 'cause what happened when my unassuming mailbox went head to head with our HOA's self-appointed road enforcer is something you almost have to hear to believe. Let's just say it ended with his beloved patrol truck looking like it had picked a fight with a reinforced concrete bunker and lost my little corner of paradise. About 30 acres of stubborn Texas scrub and equally stubborn mesquite sits right on the edge of what's optimistically named the Ponderosa Pines Ranch Estates. There are very few pines and a whole lot of prickly things, but estates meant one unavoidable reality, and not just any HOA. Ours was ruled by Bartholomew Barty Higgins, president, and more importantly, supreme commander of the neighborhood. Safety and Beautification Committee. Barty was a man whose retirement from mid-level management at a regional paperclip distribution company had left a gaping power void in his soul, a void he enthusiastically filled by policing every blade of grass and watering tumbleweed within a 5-meter radius. He was short, perpetually sunburned, and deeply devoted to khaki cargo shorts with more pockets than any human genuinely needs, especially one whose riskiest daily adventure was to walk to the community pool. His chosen instrument of authority was a slightly used, suspiciously large Ford F-150, painted an unfortunate municipal beige and topped with amber lights he'd clearly ordered online. He proudly called it the Community Patrol Vehicle, CPV-1. The rest of us referred to it as Bart's big beige battle wagon. The trouble, as it usually does, began quietly. My mailbox's standard rural model mounted on a solid wooden post sat at the end of my long gravel drive, right where it met the barely paved county road that doubled as our neighborhood's main artery. One Tuesday afternoon, I walked down to collect the mail and found it hanging crooked. The door was bent, the red flag snapped clean off. Looked like it had been clipped. Annoying, sure, but not unheard of. Living out here, you learn to fix things yourself. I straightened it, hammered the door back into shape, went on with my day. A week later, it was completely flattened, not brushed, not nudged, run over. Tire tracks told the story plainly. So I replaced it with something sturdier steel. Instead of aluminum and sank the post a foot deeper, reinforcing it with quick-set concrete. I figured that would solve it. It lasted 9 days. This time, the destruction was personal. The box looked like it had been run over and then beaten with a bat for good measure. The post was splintered, the metal crumpled into a sad geometric tragedy. That's when suspicion crept in. Our mail carrier, Carol, drove her own Subaru and treated that route like sacred ground. This wasn't her. I called the HOA office, which was really just Barty's garage, and left a message. He called back with a syrupy sympathy that immediately set my teeth on edge. He blamed reckless drivers, maybe teenagers joyriding, assured me the CPV was maintaining vigilance, then pivoted into a 15-minute lecture on how damaged mailboxes reflected poorly on the entire community. The irony escaped him entirely. Mailbox number 3 went up. Standard metal box. Wooden post. I wasn't ready to escalate yet. That one survived 2 weeks of personal best. But when I found it destroyed, there was something new. A faint smear of beige paint on the twisted metal beige, like Bart's big beige battle wagon. That's when my normally calm blood pressure started doing a little two-step. I began documenting everything: dates, photos, tire tracks, measured with a ruler. My wife, endlessly patient, just shook her head and said, "He's a sad little man with a big truck." Don't let him get to you. Wise advice. But the part of me that had spent years designing and stress testing industrial components no longer saw this as an annoyance. This was an engineering problem, and Barty Higgins had no idea who he'd chosen to antagonize. The fourth mailbox didn't last long either. It was demolished so thoroughly it looked like it had been reversed over twice. This time, the beige paint was obvious, along with a tiny plastic fragment that looked suspiciously like it belonged to a fender flare. That was it. Polite calls weren't working. Replacements only encouraged him. It was time for a different approach. I dug out an old wildlife camera. It's a kind with awful battery life and image quality that made everything look like it was filmed through a dirty sock. I strapped it to a mesquite tree across the road and waited. The footage was mostly grass, deer, and Carol doing her job. But then there it was, Bart's truck, swerving aggressively toward where my mailbox had been. Not definitive, but more than enough. So I confronted him. He denied everything, blamed my mailbox placement, called it flimsy, and accused me of stirring up trouble. And as I walked away, he tossed out one last line that sealed his fate. Maybe if your mailbox wasn't so flimsy. That word echoed in my head. Flimsy, an idea cold, elegant, and wonderfully malicious, began to take shape. If he wanted war with my mailbox, then war he would get. I reviewed the HOA bylaws and USPS regulations. Height, check. Setback, check. Structural limits, none. Just vague language about being sturdy. Perfect. What followed was the creation of what I lovingly dubbed the unyielding Centinela 6-inch steel, while casing sunk 4 feet into the ground and entombed in a truly unreasonable amount of concrete. On top sat a reinforced steel mailbox welded to a thick plate. No spikes, no traps, just unapologetic solidity. It was painted plain black, perfectly compliant, perfectly legal. When Barty finally drifted toward it like he always had, expecting another easy victory, the result was spectacular. The sound of impact was biblical. Metal screamed. Airbags exploded. His truck crumpled. My mailbox didn't move. Deputy Miller ruled it a single vehicle accident. The HOA disowned responsibility. Barty paid for everything. He lost his committee position, then his board seat, then his appetite for authority, and my mailbox. It still stands. Sometimes solving a problem doesn't require arguing or pleading. Sometimes you just need a better built solution and the patience to let karma handle the rest.